Today's lesson is going to be about irregular verbs, suru and kuru here. So Japanese does not have many irregular verbs, but I'll be talking about the two main ones that are very common and frequently used. Suru and kuru. Suru to kuru. So to means like by like and. So like connects nouns. Alright, let's start. So first let's start with suru. So the infinitive form of the verb suru is obviously suru, and it means to do. Using suru. So how do we use suru? Suru is often used with nouns in order to add an action to that certain noun, so make it a verb. So for example, we have here benkyō suru. So I study. So benkyō by itself is just study, but adding suru right after it kind of makes it a verb. So it kind of turns into I do studying, really, is basically what it means. So this can mean, of course, I study, you study, he studies, she studies. So the pronouns are, dependent on context, of course, or the subject at least. So how would you use suru in a sentence? Well, it's very much like any other sentence. So watashi wa here is used in parentheses, right? Because, well, it can be left out. You don't really need the subject in Japanese sentences. So we have nihongo. Nihongo is the object of the sentence and means Japanese, of course. So we use o. I know it's wo, but it's pronounced o when it's used as a particle. And benkyō suru, so I study Japanese. And then, so what we have here are newly formed verb, benkyō suru, I study. And then we have Japanese here with the object marker. So let's talk about some more uses of suru. When suru is not turning nouns into verbs, it can do its normal job by simply meaning to do. So for example here, we have kyō wa nani suru no? Meaning, what will you do today? So kyo here means today. I wrote in kanji because it's kind of like one of those simpler kanji that it won't be hard to pick up. So kyo, today. Wa here is the topic marking particle, so we're talking about today. So nani means, of course, what, and suru is to do. So here the no is like a explanation marker, which I will discuss in more detail in a later lesson. But all you really need to know here is that it's kind of used in a casual sentence when you're asking questions. So another way we can use suru is used when we're describing things perceived by senses. So let's look at this example here. Watashi wa kuruma o kao ki ga suru. So ki ga suru is a set phrase that means you feel, or when you sense something, or even though you may not know the reason why you feel that, you kind of just feel it. So in this sentence, kuruma, which you should already know, means car, and kau is the verb meaning to buy. So kigasuru here is like, it helps you convey the feeling that you want to buy a car, even though you don't really know why you feel like buying it. You just have that feeling. So ultimately, what makes suru an irregular verb is the conjugation. So first we're going to look at the non-formal conjugations of suru, that being the past, the negative, and the negative past. So first let's look at the past tense form here. So we have suru into shita. So you can first notice here that when you're conjugating it here, it's kind of strange because su turns into shi, which is not standard in conjugations. And the ru went away and it turned into ta, which is pretty normal in casual forms. So let's look at this example here. Nihongo wo benkyō shita. I studied Japanese. So, not really anything special here. Pretty simple sentence. So yeah, let's move on to the next one. So next is the negative tense. Again here, su turns into shi, and we add nai at the end. which is usually standard for negative regular tense. So let's look at the example here. 日本語を勉強しない. I do not study Japanese. So of course here, nothing very different. It's quite standard. It's really just the conjugations here, and they're quite easy to follow because they kind of follow a pattern as well. So let's look at the last one of the casual form here. We have the past negative tense. So su turns into shi again, and we add nakatta, which again is standard for the negative past tense. So we have this example here. 日本語を勉強しなかった. I did not study Japanese. So nakatta is a very standard way of making it negative past. So really the only thing that changed here was su turned into shi. I don't know why this keeps on popping up, my bad. So now let's look at the formal form of the suru verb. The formal form being the mas form, of course. First, let's look at the present formal tense. Here we have suru and turns into shimasu. So again, su turns into shi here, and we simply add mas afterwards. Quite simple. If this were not an irregular verb, it'd be something like surimasu or something like that. Like, well, here I'll draw it. Surimasu. Like that, surimasu. Even though it's that's not how you would do it, but if it were not an irregular, that's what it would look like. Next, we have the present negative formal tense. It's basically the same as a normal verb. Verb's negative tense minus the su turning into shi. Obviously here we have shimasu, and it goes into shimasen. Very simple. Next, the past formal tense. We have here shimasu into shimashita. Very well, it follows every other verb rule except for the su turns into shi, and we just put mashita. Very simple. And lastly, here we have the past negative formal tense. And once again, it is exact same as any normal verb except for su turns into shi. So we have shimasen, present negative formal, turning into shimasen deshita, past negative formal. Next, we have the second irregular verb, kuru. So kuru means to come, and also has a kanji form, unlike suru. So kuru here, and the kanji is kuru. Obviously, when you have kanji, you pronounce it the exact same way, it just looks different. So let's first look at the conjugations of kuru, starting with the non-formal. So conjugating into the past regular tense, kuru becomes kita. And basically, you can kind of see a pattern here. Ku turns into ki, and you just add ta, making it past tense. It's very similar to how suru was conjugated. Conjugating into the present negative tense, things will change a little bit. You still have to add nai at the end of the word. However, ku does not become ki, but rather ko. So we have kuru into konai. And of course we have the kanji versions right under here. And finally, conjugating into the past negative tense from konai into konakatta. So very straightforward, and it mainly follows the rules of conjugation other than changing the first character sound. Now let's look at the formal mas conjugations of kuru, and you'll see it follows a very similar pattern. First, kuru, the informal present form, turns into kimasu. Again, ku turns into ki here, and you simply add mas after. Next, we have the past formal version, almost like a normal verb. Mas becomes mashita, and you keep the ki, the kimasu into kimashita. Next, we have the past formal version, and almost like a normal verb, mas becomes masen. So we have kimasu, and then we have kimasen as a negative. So, I will not come. And lastly, for the past negative formal tense, you add deshita into a already negative masen. So, kimasen, I will not go, or will not come, and then kimasen deshita, I did not come. Now let's look at the uses of kuru here. Most often kuru is simply used as it is meant to. So that is meaning to come. So here we have an example here. America kara kimashita. America kara kimashita. So I came from America. America is written in katakana. Kara here, this kara here means this kara here means like from. So like kara means from. So like you could say yeah kara, I came from my house. So let's look at the special uses of kuru. So one of the special uses, first, kuru can specify an action that happens towards the speaker. So to explain this, Japanese often omits subjects in a sentence such as I, you, he, or she. In order to make up for this, kuru can be used. For example, we have ringo ga ki kara ochite kita. So the apple fell from the tree towards me. So here, ringo means apple, ki means tree, kara means from, ochiru is the word meaning to fall. Here is conjugated into the te form, but we will get to that in probably later lessons. Da, which is the past informal version of kuru, here is used to say that the apple didn't just fall from the tree, but fell towards me. And finally, kuru can indicate going somewhere and returning. So let's look at the example to understand this a little bit better. Konbini ni itte kuru ne. So let's kind of break this down. So konbini means convenience store. So like, you know, like their local 7-Eleven or whatever. But yeah, convenience stores. And they have like everything from like just some food or some just stuff that you'll always need. Ni here is a destination marking particle. So like when you're kind of traveling to somewhere, you kind of use ni as a particle. So particle. Itte is a verb from, it's a te form of the verb iku. Iku means to go, and this is the te form of it. We'll learn that in later lessons. Kuru, of course, kuru, to come. And then it's kind of used as like a agreeing thing at the end. It's very often used. Yo ne. And so by adding kuru at the end of the sentence, it tells the recipient of the sentence that I will come back. So even though it sounds kind of weird in English, the sentence really means I will go to the convenience store and come back. So you don't have to worry about me going for a long time. I'll be back. Is what it means. And so that is all about kuru and suru, the two irregular verbs. The main things you really have to remember are the conjugations of them. The uses aren't used too often, but you'll see them around. So when you do, you kind of just need to refer back to your notes, and over time you'll get it. There's no really need to like look over the special uses all the time. You really just have to get the conjugations down and just get the meaning in your head, and you'll get it over time. And it's not very difficult conjugations. They kind of all follow a pattern, and they're pretty standard. So that's all for today's lesson. Hopefully learn something here, and goodbye.